This meeting of the Clackamas County Commission to order and invite you to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mine's off.
It happens at the same time.
It could be someone in the audience too, so you might announce it.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it happens in the beginning, and then
Not
afterwards
again.
it never happens again.
Okay. While we try to figure out if we're having interference from various cell phones or not. This morning we have a couple of presentations. The first one being recognition of Oregon Fire Prevention Week. And this is important, has always been important to me because I used to be the fire prevention officer for the city of Vancouver Fire Department. And so very involved with Fire Prevention Week. It has a long history, and I will turn it over to Nancy Bush from Emergency Management.
Thank you, Commissioners. We thank you for inviting us here today to talk about Fire Prevention Week. The Clackamas County Department of Emergency Management and the Fire Defense Board are excited to share this information with you today. First, a few words regarding Fire Prevention Week. Fire Prevention Week commemorates the Chicago fire, which was a 2-day blaze that killed more than 250 people, left over 100,000 homeless, and destroyed more than 17,000 buildings October 8th and 9th in 1871. Fire Prevention Week always includes October 9th, which includes the date of the Chicago fire. That tragedy inspired reform across America, including new fire safety codes and public awareness campaigns. Each October, the National Fire Protection Association sponsors a fire prevention campaign to highlight the importance of fire safety education. This year's campaign is all about keeping you, your family, and your community safer from fire. Today I have with me Carrie Shanklin, who is the Deputy Fire Marshal from Clackamas Fire District 1, and she is now going to come up and talk to you a few moments about fire prevention tips. Carrie?
Again, thank you for letting us come to talk about fire safety. It's kind of what I live for. As she said, my name is Carrie Shanklin, and I'm from Clackamas Fire District Number 1, and I'm a deputy fire marshal, and I'm assigned to public education. That's what my whole job is. It helps us to kind of look at the trends in America, what our overall fire picture looks like, and for as wonderful of a country as America is, we have a pretty high incidence of fires, which is something that I always want to work on. Each year, approximately 3,300 people die in fires. and 17,000 are injured in fires, and that's every year. Sadly, about 120 firefighters are killed in the line of duty, and fire kills more citizens than any other natural disaster combined. And then property loss due to fires is estimated at $8.6 billion a year. And I always think about the state of the economy and how better spent that money could be. On a more local level, our trend right now is up in fires, which is sad to me. Last year, at this time, for the whole year combined, we had 45 major structure fires in Clackamas Fire District number 1, which encompasses about 196 square miles. It includes the city of Milwaukee, Happy Valley, Oregon City. And the total dollar loss that we suffered on a local level was $2,494 last year. This year, only through October, we're at over $2.6 million. And again, I always think of, wouldn't there be a better way to spend that money that's spent on fires? And then the saddest statistic to me right now is that we've had, in our fire district, we've had 4 fatalities. And it's been years since we've had even a single fire fatality, and already in 2011 we've had 4 fire deaths. And some of the other things about fire are that it moves very quickly. I'm one of 8 investigators that we have for Clackamas Fire District number 1. And every time I go to a fire as an investigator, without fail, they always say, I can't believe how fast the fire moved. It moved so quickly. So we know that fire moves very quickly. And then we also know that heat and smoke is more dangerous than the actual flames. That can overcome us without even any flame impingement whatsoever. People generally don't die from the flame impingement, they die from smoke inhalation. And that 84% of all fires occur in people's homes. Historically, America's always had quite a fire problem. In 1973, it hit an all-time high for fire deaths at 8,100 fire deaths throughout the country. And so the Commission on Fire Prevention and Control enacted a study called America Burning. Why are we having so many fires? Why is our great country suffering so many fire losses? And they decided that one of the recommendations was that there needs to be more concerted efforts in fire prevention. And so that was kind of the gist of this whole study, was we need more fire prevention. We need those emergency apparatus to be there when we have a fire, but let's prevent these fires from happening at all. And then periodically they revisit the study, and then the trend has gone down. In 1987 they revisited it. It was at 6,200 fire deaths. In 1999 they revisited it one more time, and it was 4,035 fire deaths that occurred. Today, we're at 3,200 fire deaths that occur, which is trending down, but still it's over 3,000 people who die in fires. And when you have a death or an injury from fire in your community, it affects the whole community. It is very, very devastating and destructive. It affects the school children, the neighbors, and just the whole resources of the community. So when we talk about fire prevention, we kind of break it into 3 E's, I always think of it as like a 3-pronged stool. Without one, the stool doesn't stand very well. So we have engineering, which is the systems in new buildings. This is a wonderful building. It has sprinklers that are built in already. Very likely we wouldn't have fire deaths in this building because of the sprinklers. So engineering, the systems that are in place in new buildings. Education, teaching people how to not have fires and teaching people what to do if they do have fires. And then enforcement, making sure that the systems that are installed are kept in place. If you've got wonderful exit doors on your building, but they're blocked, then the exit doors don't work. So inspecting, making sure that those exit systems are still working. And then I also added I for investigation. Each time we have a fire, if instead of it just serving as a tragedy, if we can learn from that investigation, then that will help us prevent more fires from occurring. And then we also set priorities. Most fire agencies set priorities. Ours right now at Clackamas Fire District number 1, are, of course, preventing fires. And then if you do have a fire, we really want people to have working smoke alarms. Smoke alarms save lives. It buys enough time usually for people to get out. And then planning and practicing what you would do if you ever had a fire. A lot of times people think they would know what they would do. I know what my family would do if we had a fire. But in an actual emergency, people don't always react the way that we would anticipate. So practicing your home escape plan. And then the E of fire prevention, the educational E, also has the benefit of the National Fire Protection Association. Each year they have a concentrated public education awareness campaign. And this year the theme is Protect Your Family from Fire, which is always, I think, a very good idea. And they provide various fire safety tips. So I'm going to cover some of the fire safety tips. Each of you were awarded a hot pad because sadly, there you go, well, our number one cause of residential or home fires are cooking fires. And so when people leave, we're very busy, and when people leave things unattended on the stove, a lot of times it can start a fire. And so I always encourage people, if you're going to leave the kitchen with something in it, grab a pot holder, a hot pad with you, and then that'll remind you, hopefully, that you've got something on the stove. And then here's the greatest fire safety rule ever. Don't put things that can catch on fire next to things that can start a fire. That's a great idea. So we like people to keep 3 feet of clearance between fireplaces, wood stoves, space heaters. That's just a great rule of thumb. And then we do get a lot of electrical fires. So replace worn cords. Don't overload outlets. We see that happening a lot where people plug in a whole bunch of things into an outlet and then you can get an electrical fire. One of the things I teach school kids about fire safety, and one of the things that I always try to encourage kids is don't start smoking. It's very dangerous. It's our number one cause of fire deaths. And it also is not good for your health. So don't start smoking. But if people do smoke, smoke safely. Use wide non-tip ashtrays, soaking cigarette butts in water when you're done. That's always a good idea. And I always encourage people not to do anything dangerous when they're tired. We get a lot of fires where people fall asleep with their cigarette. And so if you're really tired, make sure the cigarettes are out. And then finally, blow out all candles when you leave the room. And then we really encourage people not to have candles in the bedroom area, because a lot of times people will light a candle before they go to bed, and then they'll fall asleep, and then we end up with another fire that way. And then these aren't prevention of fires, but they're prevention of fire deaths, in that please install and maintain working smoke alarms. The old slogan was change your clock, change your battery, but we don't say that anymore. We say change your clock and check your battery, because the smoke alarms in Oregon generally have a 10-year lithium battery, so we don't want people changing out that battery. But do check your smoke alarm. Make sure they're working. And if citizens need help with installing or checking smoke alarms, the fire departments usually can help with that. And then again, plan and practice your escape from fire. Make sure your family has a meeting place and they know what to do. You can't hide from fire, so get down, get low, and get out. And go to your meeting place and call 911. Each year, fire agencies have ways that they commemorate or ways that they help the community become safer during Fire Prevention Month. Our fire district this year distributed 14,000 fire prevention brochures to North Clackamas and Oregon City school districts. We have been giving multiple presentations to the schools, numerous station tours, trying to target media consistent messages about fire safety. And then happily, we're having 5 fire station open houses throughout the community every Saturday in October. So check our website, clackamasfire.com, and you can find a local fire station where you can ask fire prevention questions. You can see how firefighters live. You can visit a fire station. And then we're also implementing smoke alarm campaigns where we go, and for those communities that might not ordinarily be able to afford a smoke alarm, or they just haven't done it for some reason, we'll knock on the door, install their smoke alarm, answer any questions, and target it that way. Just some of the pictures of the things that we've been doing. Happy Land. And then another Another aspect of our prevention efforts are having safety fairs. A lot of times in the summer, we host safety fairs, everything from bike helmets to fire safety, immunization. So if your family, it's a great opportunity to get some free safety hints and tips. And then just the most important thing is you may have the greatest fire agencies serving your community, but without your input and without what you do to keep your family safe and planning to practice, fire prevention doesn't always work. So fire safety and fire prevention is generally up to all of us. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Bernard.
Actually, I just have a couple of comments. I had a cousin, Angela Lanfear, who died in a fire in 1968, I'm estimating, from a candle in a living room that fell on the carpet and caught a fire. In 68, of course, they didn't have smoke alarms.
Right.
And the rest of the family made it out, but she didn't get past the front door. But I also am very lucky to live in a community, Villebois, that requires sprinkler systems in all homes.
Okay.
And those sprinkler systems, of course, save lives. And, you know, urban renewal was what deferred some of the cost of that fire system in Wilsonville. And I hope that someday we'll get to a point in Clackamas County where we require fire suppression devices in every home. Certainly in many of the new developments that we have, and in all apartments, which I believe it's true, we do require that already. So I look forward to that day. But, you know, I feel very safe in my home that I'd be able to get out quickly and safely. We also have smoke alarms, which I do test regularly. But thank you for your hard work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions, comments, whatever?
My comment would be just to let people know that fire extinguishers are really important in your home. I can tell you one of the businesses that I had years ago, my neighboring business was a fire extinguisher company who repaired and recharged fire extinguishers, and we got to play with a lot of them to see how they really worked. You know, they don't last very long. People really, you only get about maybe 15, 30 seconds of a charge, depending on the size. And more than one is important, and making sure that the gauge registers. And after a while, you can have them tested, or sometimes it's maybe cheaper to just replace them than it is to have them serviced. But I believe in a lot of fire extinguishers all around, and I do have some in my house. I've been in 3 fires in structures in my life, so it's I really appreciate having fire extinguishers handy.
That's very good. I think the statistics say that only 1 in 10 people have ever actually used a fire extinguisher, and they do have a pin that you have to pull when you use them. And so we always try to remember the acronym PASS: pull the pin, aim the fire extinguisher, squeeze, and sweep. But knowing where they are and being familiar, that's good advice.
When I was the fire prevention officer, that was one of the main things I did, was teach fire extinguisher classes to businesses and other civic groups, and so I would stress that a fire extinguisher is only as good as the person who is using it, who knows to pull the pin and do the thing, because without that, you know, we used to show the movie, which I'm sure you've seen on fire extinguisher use, that where without any prior direction, people pick up a fire extinguisher and, well, how does it work? Do I pull up on, no, you know, and
It's true. It's true.
they're just befuddled as to how to make it to go. So it's important that when you have a fire extinguisher, at least read it and think with it through in your mind the steps that you're going to take to use it, and be prepared to do that. Yes.
Additionally, I was in a fire with my grandmother many years ago in an apartment. She was disabled. So it's important to let your neighbors know, and perhaps the fire department, that you have somebody disabled in the home so that they can get them out in time.
Good advice. Good advice.
Yes.
So I just said a couple things. First, I just want to emphasize how important it is for positions such as yourself, community outreach and education specialists at the fire stations. I'm familiar with your good work and the good work of Alice Lasher out at the Sandy District, and she used to work with Boring Damascus Fire. And I know as a Girl Scout leader that fire station visits are one of the highlights. I mean, they absolutely love those kinds of visits, and how important it is that you instill in them the dangers of fire and how to keep their homes safe. I remember, my daughter harped on us for a long time about having an escape plan, in our home, and to practice it. Not just to say, well, this is what would happen, but to actually practice it, and it makes a big impression on you as an adult. The other thing I wanted to share is Kara and I are in the North Clackamas Chamber leadership training, and I got to witness firsthand Kara's fire skills when she scaled the rock wall. It was this tower of junk, basically, with ladders and logs and all kinds of things. And I made it up partway and couldn't, for the life of me, figure out how to get over this log that was there. And Kara went up and hauled herself over the top and stood on top of it. And I was like, yeah, there are those fire skills at work. So I look forward to getting to know Kara better through that leadership course.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes our children are our best safety ambassadors too. So when they get a fire safety presentation at school, and they come and tell their parents, "We've got to do this."
Exactly.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the last thing is I did attend the Hoodland fire station open house last Saturday, and it was really well attended. And we had our staff, we had our emergency management staff there, we had our emergency communication staff there. Kids were trying on fire suits, and they were getting fire truck rides, and it's a really wonderful thing. I encourage everyone to get their families out and go and check out these open houses because they're great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. It's hard work. It's important that you're doing educational outreach, and we sure appreciate your coming by today.
Thank you. Thanks for
And
coming.
I just want to add one more thing, which has always been a pet peeve of mine, and that is the movies. And to mention again that a fire inside a building does not behave the way fires in the movies behave. Fires in the movies, people go into burning buildings to save someone or a pet or something, and there's a little bit of fire here and a little fire there, and it's just growing like a bunch of campfires. But this is not the way fire inside a structure works. You have superheated gases. It is the superheated gas and smoke that kills, and one breath of it, and you have seared your lungs, and you are dead in instants. So it is not something you can go in without protection and wander around a building looking for something, which they do in the movies a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate that people have this impression of fire behavior from what you see in the movies. So.
Thank you for bringing that up. Another thing that Hollywood portrays is that when the sprinkler system goes off, all the heads go. That is not true.
No.
Fire sprinklers are little heat detectors, and so only the head directly above the fire goes off, and that's usually sufficient to put out the fire. And sprinklers do not go off with mere smoke in the building either. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, lots of misunderstandings from the movies, and so thank you very much, and we will all encourage people to observe Fire Prevention Week and Fire Prevention Month in October. Thank you. And the next item is with Gary Schmidt from Public and Government Affairs. He's here for a presentation of Clackamas County budget efficiencies.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. I'm here from Public and Government Affairs to share with you how the Clackamas County budget is an efficient budget, as it of course always is, but even more so this year. And part of public outreach that my department is helping to work on, starting now and into the rest of this year, is to demonstrate and really showcase how the county is being very fiscally prudent during this very tough economic times here in the county, regionally, in the nation, in the world, and how we're continuing to do more with less under your direction as the Board of Commissioners, our Budget Committee, and under our staff guidance with County Administrator Steve Wheeler. So this really is just a very brief presentation to highlight the good things we do here at Clackamas County with the public resources we are given to provide these services. So just quickly, the Clackamas County fiscal year 2011-2012 budget is approximately, you can see the exact number on the screen, $807 million, which, while a lot of money, is actually less than prior budget years. It's a 4% reduction than the prior fiscal year in 2010-2011. And that amount was created, and that total amount is the county departments as well as special districts programs, is because of sound financial stewardship with the staff and the commissioners working together to determine how can we best provide services to our clients and customers of the county. As I mentioned, we are indeed doing more with less, but because of that, we're still able to serve those that most need it. This is the second year that, with your direction, the county is providing budget savings, redirecting those savings to programs that most directly affect vulnerable populations, such as those that may need shelter from abuse, family violence, and other programs that the county can help promote, and others that provide services here within the county, as well as leveraging support with other service providers within the county but not directly provided by the county, such as a direction by the board recently to provide some financial support to Clackamas Women's Services, the Children's Center. You're looking at currently providing some support to Parrot Creek, Children and Family Services, as well as other nonprofit organizations that provide an important service to our community, and how can we partner with them to ensure those services continue. As well, the county is continuing its Special Projects Grants program, which provides annually $200,000 total to be distributed among several nonprofit organizations that apply to the county for these special one-time only funds. And this year, there's been a record number of organizations that have applied, and the requests have been, I believe it's almost $600,000 worth of requests, although we only have $200,000 to award, and that process is continuing. But those help programs such as services for seniors, for those who are hungry, for health clinics, and so forth. So another opportunity to provide those resources to help those who are most in need. The county is also working to plug the safety net for those that most need it as well. And these are financial decisions you as a board made, which was not an increase in the county budget, but rather redirection of funds to, again, serve those citizens and customers that most need it. And just a quick sampling of that, $500,000 for victims of domestic violence and to help raise awareness of sexual abuse, $95,000 to support hiring more veterans in the county and through the county's Veteran Services Program, $100,000 for the Safe Communities Program, which helps reduce injuries and fatalities on our roadways throughout the county and the region, and $160,000 for juvenile crime prevention. Again, small amounts, but they go so much further in helping provide those services that are needed to our community. As well, supporting public safety efforts, $900,000 redirected to help increase motorcycle patrols and jail staffing to the levels that were prior, which would have been cut otherwise, and almost $2.4 million for public safety capital projects, which in essence helps consolidate facilities and provides other efficiencies to our public safety agencies. But wait, there's more. Internally, there's been efficiencies as well. Under a lean program, which we've heard often, you've heard that at the Business in the County event with the chambers, that private businesses are trying to be more lean in their services and programs. The county is no exception. We're just undertaking this effort now, and there'll be much more in the future. But to start, 6 county departments are undertaking these lean projects that have already saved the county $441,000 and is providing 21,000 days of improved customer service that would have otherwise have been spent with people waiting on the phone or in line or simply a month or two to get a response to what their inquiry is. Those days have been cut. In just a short amount of time, the county has undertaken this lean project, as well as rigorous cost management in various county departments, which all began, again, under the direction of Steve, our county administrator, that really follows zero-based budgeting. Every department, you don't get any increase from the prior year. The cost of services, programs, and personnel continues to rise every year, but departments are asked to keep a steady zero increase budget and find ways to do more with less, as well as performance audits of various county departments to see how those departments can be even more efficient in their services. Various ways that the county staff and leaders within the various departments are working to keep a gauge on their costs that we provide. So again, this is just a very, very brief presentation to share with you the county is doing good things with the money entrusted to us by our citizens and special district customers. We'll continue to share with you and our communities how you, the board, and our county staff are being efficient with use of these public funds. And of course, the next year's budget is almost around the corner, and we'll continue to do that as a county. So really, thank you, commissioners, for your guidance, and this is just a quick opportunity to share with you the good work you are doing and that our county is doing.
Okay. Questions? Oh,
Thank you.
excellent work. Thank you. And that brings us to our public hearings. And we were discussing before the meeting a little bit that this is, at this point, the board will be sitting as Service District number 5. And it wasn't entirely clear. I can see why it would not be clear to people just what that was. It is lighting. It is a lighting
Street lighting.
district.
Street
You can we can now see because there's a street light. So that's what it's about. And so in the future we will somehow, in parentheses or somehow or another, indicate on the agenda that Service District number 5 is about street lighting, and these are all street lighting assessment districts where people have chosen to do a special assessment in order to have street lights in somewhere or another. And we have with us today Wendy Coriel, and she will present on this topic.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Wendy Coriel, representing Clackamas County Service District number 5, which is the agency responsible for street lighting in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County and in the cities of Happy Valley and Damascus. I bring these items before you as a Board of Directors of Clackamas County Service District number 5. Street lighting is required as conditions of approval for new residential, commercial, industrial, multifamily developments within the urban areas of Clackamas County and in the cities of Happy Valley and Damascus. Street lighting can also be installed via the district's petitioning process. Today, there are 8 street lighting service areas for your consideration. 3 are in the city of Happy Valley, 1 is in the city of Damascus, and 4 is in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. The first area for your consideration is Area 05-10, which is a whiting commercial building. This is a new commercial building on Southeast 202nd Avenue in Damascus, and we'll be installing Cobra lights on existing wood poles. This will come under Rate D at $110 per frontage foot per tax lot per year, and there were no remonstrances received. The second area is Area 01-11, 85 Kazi. This is a new 41-unit apartment complex on Southeast Kazi Avenue. We'll be installing Cobra lights on fiberglass poles. This will come at a Rate D at $110 per frontage foot per tax lot per year. The third area is 07-11, Pleasant Valley SDA Church. This is a church on 172nd Avenue in Happy Valley. We'll be installing Cobra lights on existing wood poles. And this too will come at a Rate D at $110 per frontage foot per tax lot per year. There were no remonstrances received. Fourth area is Area 08-11. This is the West Water Environment Services Diversion Pump Station. This is a new commercial diversion structure, pump station, odor control facility, and pipeline. We'll be installing Cobra lights on fiberglass poles. Well, actually, the ones that are there are adequate. This will come to Rate D at $110 per frontage foot per tax lot per year. Area 5 is Area 11-11, Carl's Jr. Restaurant. This is a restaurant on Southeast Sunnyside Road in Happy Valley. We'll be installing, the existing Cobra lights on fiberglass poles are adequate. This will come at a Rate D at $110 per frontage foot per tax lot per year. Next area is Area 09-11, which is the Howard Partition. This is a 2-lot partition on Southeast Thiessen Road. The existing Cobra lights on wood poles is adequate. This will come under rate B at $45 per tax lot per year. There are no remonstrances received. Area 1511, the Pelican partition. This is a 2-lot partition on Southeast Jennings Avenue. We'll be installing Cobra on existing wood poles, and this will come under rate B at $45 per tax lot per year. And the last area for your consideration is Area 12-11. This is the Blackstone Terrace subdivision. This is a new 9-lot subdivision on Southeast 162nd Avenue in Happy Valley, and we're going to be installing Tetra lights on Shepherd's Crook poles. This will come under rate R at $243 per tax lot per year. And that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commission, do you have questions?
Just one question on the first two you presented, or three. They were $110 per tax foot. So on a 100-foot frontage, what would be the annual cost?
So we multiply 110 times the 100 square feet, and so that's how we do the commercial projects. And so, what is that? 1,010 per tax lot per year.
Thank you.
Same with the CASI.
Okay, other questions?
So the rate differential is commercial, residential. How many rates do you have?
I believe there's 9 rates in the district, and it's broken down. Commercial is rate D, and that's just a flat commercial rate. Residential is broken up based on the style of lighting and the area in which it is installed, because City of Happy Valley and City of Damascus uses a different lighting style in some of their areas, and so we've broken out rates for those areas, like the Tetra lights that we showed as an example in the picture. That's why it's a little bit different.
Great, thank you.
Quite different. Questions? Other questions? With that, I will open the public hearing on this and ask if anyone would like to speak on any of these 8 assessment areas. Well, you would need to come up.
Please forgive me, Richard Langdon. I don't know anything about this. I'm just confused and have a question, and I'm sure that there's a legitimate answer for it. I know of some of these projects, and I'm a shopping center developer. I develop retail properties, done it for a long, long time, and I paid for these in the past. What's this about? The Carl's Jr. is an example, 147th, now Misty Lane. Belongs to a friend of mine. What is the deal? I mean, if I had put that pad in the past, I would have been required to put in any lighting associated with, even in the right-of-way, curb, shoulder, sidewalk, any of that sort of thing. That's just been the customary arrangement. What's going on here that's different? I don't understand.
Okay, well, because the lighting exists in this area already, and it was improved because of a capital improvement project, we go out to the site and we'll visit it and we'll make a determination on whether street lighting is required for the area, if new installation needs to take place, or if the lighting is adequate. In the event the lighting is adequate, then we'll also look at the property to see if it's already in the assessment area being charged for the lighting, and if not, we add it to the district, which is what we're bringing these items forward for, so that then the new commercial projects that are coming in will be added to the district to pay for the lighting that is already in place. So it wouldn't be new installation that you'd have to have for those projects, but you'd contribute to the district by being added to the district.
Right. So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that there was every one of these projects that you had mentioned are within an area that has this special lighting taxing district, correct? And so what's happening is any of these projects, and it really has to do with the fact that there is this taxing district, and what you're choosing to do as the county is have those developers and those property owners join into the district as opposed to producing the lights themselves. Do you give them the option? First of all, the first question was, so is that do I understand correctly? Is that what's going on? Is that you have them come into the district program instead of put the lighting in themselves in a customary way?
Correct. So
And-
you are right on the first point. Yes,
and-
we're
and-
adding it to the existing mapping boundary district.
Gotcha. And the second part is, I forgot the second part. What was it? Do you remember the...
You asked if they had an
They like-
option.
if
Oh, do they have an
option.
option? Yes, thank you, Jamie. Do they have an option of going one way or the other?
Well, in the case of Sunnyside, that was something that was on the capital improvement project. And so lighting was created as part of the plan for that capital improvement project. So in those cases, no, because there's already development on some properties along that line, and then there's other ones that are coming in new. We would then just install it as part of that capital improvement project rather than given the option. And then other areas like a residential partition, for instance, we wouldn't necessarily have a project going on that street. We'll look into it and see if there is a potential project coming. Then we would give that option. There was a petition we had recently where there was somebody doing a partition on their property, and then there was a petition also being established. And we asked that owner how they wanted to, if they wanted to be a part of the petition or if they wanted to be added as part of their partition. So we do, it just depends on the circumstance.
Great. Thanks a lot. You've been very informative. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks.
Us.
Good morning, Les Poole. I've done property development in the past, and Wendy was really great to work with when I was trying to do an awkward development, a small one, be it. But I've done some lighting and worked with neighborhoods before. Recently, the district was created where Paul lives, and hopefully when the outreach is done, in the residential areas, some shielding or options for bulb, wattage or output are considered, because sometimes, we all want lights for safety, and at the same time, the other side of the equation is sometimes it's shining in someone's room or in their front door, and so then we get into shielding and light pollution issues, and so I'm certainly not here to comment on any of the specifics of each of these proposed investments, but would always hope that the public, the residential folks, not so much commercial, are aware that, well, which pole is it going to go on, and how will that affect my yard? Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, you have a question?
I had a question. So when a neighborhood wants to put in a lighting district, everyone gets notice that this is being proposed, and then they have the ability to say, no, I'm not interested in doing that. And there's a certain percentage where you have to get so many remonstrances that say, no, we don't want to do this. So there is an outreach to the neighborhood to make sure they know where it's going to be, what the cost would be, and whether they would like to participate or, ask that it not happen. So is that true?
That is true, Jim. And through the petitioning process, usually a neighborhood that wants lighting they'll have an advocate come forward that wants to represent the neighborhood. And yes, they are given notice of the area of assessment and the costs that are associated with that. And we walk them through the process on what they need to do to make, their project for lighting happen.
Great. Thank you.
And I would just, I would just notice there's that Happy Valley light on the that's on the screen now, the Tectra or whatever it was called. I can't recall it. But I would point out some of what Les was remarking about is shielding and protection for light pollution is an issue. We have discussed it at some length in prior meetings, not only in terms of shielding neighboring properties, but also in terms of getting the most efficient use out of the light. I mean, light fixtures are getting more efficient over time, so that the light is going in the areas that you want it, and you're not wasting it in areas that you don't want it. and another big part of modern lighting now is protecting the night sky. So we also don't want light going straight up, because near as I can tell, we've already lost the Milky Way here, and it used to be extremely clear when I was a child. You could see it, but it's gone now. I don't think you can find it in the Portland metro area, but which is unfortunate. And I think over time we may see improvements as older fixtures that have light that's unshielded on the top get replaced with newer. Who knows? The Milky Way may be back someday.
It's at my house.
Yeah, you have to go out to Jamie's house to find it. But with that, if there's no one else to testify, we will close the public hearing, and I would ask for a motion on these 8 assessment areas.
Madam Chair, I move approval of all 8 board orders forming an assessment area within Clackamas County Service District Number 5 as presented by staff.
And I second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bernard and seconded by Commissioner Damon that we approve all 8 board orders for these assessment areas. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously and is approved, and thank you very much.
If there's just a moment, I could give a little bit of a public service announcement.
Sure.
Up on the screen, we've provided a picture of a label that's on all street lights. And anytime there's a street light out, the light is to stay on during the day. And that's how we pick up on whether or not a light is out. And neighbors can report that by going either to our website, under the Clackamas County website, under Department of Transportation and Development. And they can report it by going to an email. They can contact us by phone, or they can contact PGE directly. And what they'll see on that tag there is, on the pole there's a tag, and it gives a map number and pole number, and that is information that's helpful when they're calling or emailing that information in, so we know how or where that light is located at, and that helps PGE identify it. And we usually have a 2-week turnaround on those lights to have those repaired. And we're working with PGE also on the dark sky friendly lights, so hopefully that's something that we'll be looking at in the future.
Thank you. Yes, that's important public service announcement. The next item on, since we have no items up for discussion today, is citizen communication. And I have Les Poole on my thing for citizen communication.
Hello again. Les Poole, Oak Grove. My address is on file. I noticed an ad in the Northwest Connection, and the advertisement is for the public safety levy, and it's 3-378. And after listening to the presentation earlier on fire safety, I don't have time to tell you how many fires I've put out or been involved in, but if you've ever managed apartments or owned property or owned a business for many years like Paul Savas has, you get around these things and it's pretty hairy. And Chair Lehan's correct. The reason there's no smoke in the television fires is so you can see it on TV. If you've ever been in a real fire, you can see about 6 inches. I want to refer to something that I've spoken about recently. I sent you all an email this morning. I'm sorry I didn't get it done in time to send it yesterday, but briefly want to allude to a few things. One of them is you've heard me talk about the ignorance of the land use final order by, we'll call the entities promoters of Milwaukee Light Rail. And the effort to cross Kellogg Lake to Park Street has resulted in I call it a butchered design. You may have seen yesterday's Clackamas Review. Once again, the issue of building a giant overpass through public resources is a big mistake, and it was an overzealous move by TriMet in Milwaukee. Unfortunately, the county is involved because prior to signing the intergovernmental agreement and committing $25 million to the project, that very issue came up. And 3 of you, I believe, were in office in 2010, and the issue of a Section 4 compliance with the federal code came up. Section 4 deals with impacts to resources. Not my backyard. I'm not here talking about Les Poole's backyard. I'm talking about a watershed, talking about a park or 2 or 3 parks, talking about a historic trestle and the lack of mitigation or money for it. No formation of any kind of an environmental zone. The real issue is all the money's going into Portland and Milwaukee. I'll close by saying it's very clear that the impacts to the trolley trail that I've addressed repeatedly are anything but minimum or de minimis. And I appreciate the opportunity to inform you of what's coming. I'll donate my last 5 seconds to Richard Langdon.
Okay. Next up is Richard Langdon.
Thanks, Les. Good morning. My name is Richard Langdon, Portland, Oregon. None of the material I'm presenting here later today is directed towards Jamie Damon or Paul Savas. Jamie Damon, this has to do with the adoption of a plan to dictate the behavior of citizens at Clackamas County meetings. Jamie Damon graciously answered my questions, simple questions I had regarding that, but she was contradicted by other people after she answered the questions by other forces and other people. That's problematic. We need to get this clear about freedom of speech. Paul Savas is not directed at him because he's always been a proponent of good, clear, honest government with citizen participation in any way the law allows in terms of freedom of expression. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jamie. Charlotte, I'll go over a little bit here. I've got a short time. Real quick little review for some of the viewers at home. Clackamas County intends to adopt this document about citizen behavior. Charlotte Leanhan has refused to answer any the simplest questions about the document. Questions like, will citizens be able to express themselves in every way the law allows? Charlotte Leanhan has continually asserted that the citizens are not allowed to ask questions at these meetings. So she was asked last week to bring this week the current Clackamas County written code prohibiting the asking of questions, prohibiting freedom of speech, prohibiting freedom of expression, and to share those words with the citizens of Clackamas County. So, Charlotte Leanhan, we're listening, and please read the words. Thank you.
As I have explained before, during citizen communication, we don't do back and forth. We have staff to respond to you afterwards, or I can talk to you afterwards. But during citizen communication, this is not an agenda item for us to be discussing. So it isn't appropriate because this item wasn't on the agenda for us to discuss. So those questions can be answered outside of the formal meeting.
Thank you. That's not what we were asking for. We were asking for the current written Clackamas County rule that has in words what you just said. Could you read that, please?
I think we're done with the
I think we're done,
communication
because
part here.
this is not a back and forth. So this is your opportunity to testify before the commission. And thank you very much. We are proceeding on to the consent agenda, and I need to announce that consent agenda item B2 has been removed from the agenda for further review. We couldn't get some questions answered, and the staff weren't available in a timely manner, so we have pulled that one from the consent agenda. And we will go on and have the clerk read the consent agenda by title only, and those items will appear on your screen shortly.
Okay, under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval to apply for a continuation grant for the Oregon Department of Transportation Special Transportation Formula Funds through Ride Connection, Inc. for services provided to members of the Transportation Consortium of Clackamas County for seniors and people with disabilities. Approval of a professional, technical, and consultant service contract with Empowerment Initiatives, Inc. to provide residential peer support services. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro to receive funding for staffing to support waste reduction assistance for multifamily communities. Under the Department of Communications, approval of a state Homeland Security grant for interoperable communication enhancement projects for mobile data computer connections. Under Elected Officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes, approval of a service contract between Clackamas County District Attorney's Office and the Children's Center of Clackamas County, a board order rescinding order number 2010-127 and directing the treasurer to cancel a reserve account under ORS 311814 to address the Comcast Corporation appeal. Under the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, approval of a board order for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for budgeting of new revenue for fiscal year 2011-2012. Under Service District Number 5, Street Lighting, board order amending board order number 2011-73 for the certification of assessment roll for Clackamas County Service District Number 5. And under Water Environment Services, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1, Tri-City Service District, and Portland State University. And that concludes the consent agenda.
All of these items are on the screen for people to see at home, and that means that they are available on the web if you go to this location, and you can click and find out details on any of these items. With that, I would consider a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Bernard that we approve the consent agenda as amended. And any comment on any of these items? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And that brings us to Commissioner Communication. Would anyone like to jump in? Or should I have to pick? Why don't you go start, Paul, since Jamie seems to be writing.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, well, I see our guests have left. I have really been, I was gone last week, and I played the tape back and listened to the communication that we had. And I'm going to, on November 2nd, which is the first Wednesday, I don't know if I can follow through with this each time, but on November 2nd, I would like to, at least at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and I'll announce it. We'll have it on the website, perhaps, or find a means next week. I'll have the official time. But I'm just would like to have a opportunity for people that are interested in discussing, citizens that want to discuss and have a two-way conversation on the guidelines as suggested for meeting decorum to discuss that. And I spoke yesterday with Commissioner Damon about that concept. So November 2nd, Wednesday, 6 or 7 p.m., and I'll have the time certain here next week. And I think that really that is all I really have at this point. I did want to touch on earlier when we talked about the budget presentation. I didn't know what the content was going to be, but one thing I do want to talk about a little bit and get on the agenda soon is our discussion on our sustainability program. And what's really lacking in our sustainability program is the economic leg. I don't think it's pronounced enough to really be effective. When I first got on in January, I believe I brought that to the attention of that department and staff, and I think I shared that actually with some of you. And I would really like to bring attention back at that. We're approaching budget time, we're approaching a lot of decisions, and I think that as we cite our sustainability program and our policy there, that absent that economic element of the triple bottom line, as is referred to, or the three-legged stool, that the economic piece is extremely important, especially when it comes to money and cost. So I would like to advocate for that to be put on the agenda here soon.
Okay.
This morning we had a good meeting of Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. It's a region-wide meeting, and there is a process underway to prioritize what grant requests we make to the federal government from the region on various transportation projects so that we can be more competitive to get something into the region. And I'm pleased to say that today the large group voted to include lawn field extension as one of the three projects that are particularly high priority. So that's a project that will enable folks affected by Phase 1 of the Sunrise, which is a great project, but will close off direct access to 205 in one area to get to 205 with reasonable efficiency by some improvements to lawn field and it winding around and eventually feeding in. So the good thing is the region prioritized and the project in Clackamas County that will help Oregon Iron Works continue to have access to freight routes that will help Camp Withicum have a second point of access or egress to 205 and will help us use that employment land well is one of our regional priorities. So that's good news.
Excellent. Commissioner Bernard.
One thing, a group of students in Willamette Primary and Westland High School are working in a Wilson, let me see, I got to find this, planting, just trying to, 1,000 blue camas bulbs in a park in West Lynn on the 20th. And it's great, certainly, to have all these kids doing these volunteer projects, very valuable. Camas bulbs were referred to by Lewis and Clark as rivers of blue. And this is a savanna area that in West Lynn that a lot of people put a lot of time in. Over 3,000 hours of volunteer work has already been donated to this project. It's a great wildlife habitat. So on the 20th, they're doing the same. We're not really inviting the public. I just want to let you know that we appreciate all the hard work these young students are putting into restoration of natural areas. I spent a couple of days this week in Josephine County. Met one of the commissioners whom I had met before, Simon Eyre. They have Josephine County, of course, is very challenged with some of the rural school funding, which has slowly gone away. Their tax base is 59 cents, which I was just totally amazed, which is the lowest in the state. The average is around ours, which is, I believe, 283, somewhere around 283, 287. We don't always assess our full tax rate, I believe. But these people are really struggling. And one of the things they did is they gave away their mental health work to a contractor. So that's done through a contractor, and I had an opportunity to visit a number of their facilities and looked at how they do it. I'm not, of course, advocating that we do that, but one of the issues that I think we talked about before is that there are very few nonprofits in Clackamas County, actually exist in Clackamas County. While the gentleman I went down with, Bob Nichols, who's the executive director of Jefferson Behavioral Health, mentioned that some counties have, in the country, have as many as 57,000 nonprofits in their county. Clackamas County has very few. I mean, who provide these kind of services and other services. Quite a difference. So yeah, I learned a lot. I enjoyed it a lot. These two people are Bob used to be the director of Oregon Department of Human Services, and Gina Nichols, Dr. Gina Nichols, has started, along with others, a new foundation looking into the effect of mental health medications and how they believe it's actually an epidemic, that doctors tend to overprescribe, often making people worse than better, and the increase in mental health illness and suicide in youth is often due to the medication they take. And so there is an effort across the country and actually across the world looking at prescription drugs and whether there are other solutions rather than getting every new drug that comes out and prescribing it to youth and adults. So that's a great effort. They gave me a book which I've started reading. Not a mental health professional, so I'm sure it's going to take me a while to get through it. And then back to a comment that was made a few minutes ago about the chair saying that people could not ask questions. That's actually false. That we always allow questions, and the administrator writes those questions down, and submitted questions we'd certainly be happy to answer. But those questions are always answered. I believe Jamie answered all of his questions in the email, and it's right. We can't sit here and have discussions and also risk perhaps breaking the law by talking about issues or answering questions that have not been presented on the agenda, which we have at numerous meetings addressed that issue. So I think the chair is right that we can't have a debate here. Questions submitted or questions asked are always answered, and not always like they want to hear it. But I know that Jamie, on that particular issue, wrote emails and answered every single question. And I think that one of the other things is that we're not in any way, shape, or form through this process demanding that these be followed. They're guidelines, simple guidelines. But there are also a set of rules that I know that the chair uses, I used when I was mayor of Milwaukee, and in my short tenure as chair, was that we follow Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Orders are much more demanding than our guidelines, but it's a standard that's accepted. There are some others that are used, but all of them require a certain decorum. They require respect of one another, and I cannot think of a single incident where we have not been respectful. And I appreciate the respect that the citizens give us and the respect that we, of course, return. So I appreciate the audience participation and asking questions, and I can assure you that to the best of our ability, we'll answer all those and as well follow our guidelines. It was once suggested that we have our own. Well, we do actually have our own sitting right there, and appreciate Paul and Jamie's work on clarifying those and making sure people are comfortable. There will always be people who will be uncomfortable with suggestions that we do anything a certain way. And but we're making an effort to do exactly that. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you.
Yeah. My only comment, Commissioner Bernard, is 3 words there you used, and I think some of them have different meaning. One was rules, the other one is guidelines, and the other one are suggestions. I think, suggestion and guidelines is probably a little bit more palatable than the rules when it comes to how that affects the First Amendment rights that people interpret as they do. So I think the guidelines is maybe a better word.
We do operate under Robert's rules.
Yeah,
That's
called
correct.
Robert's rules.
Robert has rules. Robert doesn't have guidelines.
Yes, he
Commissioner
does.
Damon.
Well, thanks, Jim, because what I was writing when Chair Lehan said, Commissioner Damon isn't quite ready, was pretty much what you just said.
Oh,
So
sorry.
no, it's fine. I'll just put a big extra to that. And just to reiterate briefly, the three answers that I submitted to Mr. Langdon and others in response to his questions are that the brochure is guidelines, it does not limit freedom of speech, and it certainly allows questions. And so that's just to be very, very clear. And we're still accepting comments on the brochure, so be sure to send those in. I think we have more than 20 comments. There are very few that are inconsistent or that are in conflict with each other. So we'll be doing an update of this draft and getting it out and having it available. So thank you for that. I have 2 other things. One is that on Tuesday, I attended the ribbon cutting of the Youth Move drop in downtown Milwaukee, which is, from what I understand, the first of its kind, a combined drop-in center and peer counseling center for youth. And so it's intended for youth who are foster care or welfare or somehow connected with the system, to have peer support and peer counseling from older youth, I will call them, folks in their 20s who have been there and done that, been in the system. And it's in a facility that's just really feels like a kind of a youth center, with the TV and the foosball table and the keyboard and a kitchen and a place for them to feel comfortable to drop in. So it's a model, it's a pilot right here in our county of the first of its kind that's combined in this way. It also has some really lovely art in it. There's a wonderful graffiti type mural in one of the rooms that was, I understand, put in there in part in coordination with our Arts Alliance. So if you have an opportunity to drop by that Youth Drop-In Center in Milwaukee, it's really something, and I'm proud that we have that in our county. The last thing I wanted to share is Commissioner Savas and I attended the Royal Rosarians Prime Minister Ball on Saturday night, and I just want to say a few minutes about how proud we are as a county to have royalty amongst us. Rob Hungerford is the newly installed Prime Minister for the Royal Rosarian Society for its centennial year. And Rob is an employee of Clackamas County. He's worked with us for 27 years with Wes. He's a technical services specialist. And just in case people think that the Rose Festival and the Royal Rosarians are really a Portland thing, I sat at a table on Saturday night with folks from Beaver Creek and Westland and Lake Oswego, and I know that in the centennial year there'll be a number of events that will be held outside of the Portland boundaries in Clackamas County, and I'm just really pleased to know that we've got one of our own as leading that effort as the Prime Minister overseeing the centennial year. So here's kudos to Rob Hungerford, our own Royal Rosarian Prime Minister.
Maybe we could talk him into coming in sometime in his outfit.
I think so. I think he would love that. It's
For the TV.
It's quite an outfit.
Yeah, it is. It's a tremendous outfit.
Yeah.
I've been to.
So
I've
we'll
been
follow
to
up with him and see, because I think it would be really great as we get a little bit closer to Rose Festival time, and to talk about the Rose Festival centennial events that will be occurring in Clackamas County. It really is a much bigger regional celebration that I think people understand. So, kudos, Rob.
Yeah, if I might just jump in on that, thank you for bringing that out, Jamie. Yeah, there's a number of employees that volunteer their time, county employees here that volunteer their time in ways, and Rob, that's a heck of a commitment that Mr. Hungerford is committed to this year in that position, and he's been a Rosarian for a long time. And that commitment to the region, it's more of a regional thing, because even though it's, a lot of the activity and so forth is centered in Portland, it really is the whole region. So one of our other Royal Rosarians in the region, I met this morning at the JPAC meeting, and I said, because I did not know that he was a Royal Rosarian, so I said, how do I address a Rosarian? And he said, call me sir. It was obviously, but it was Mayor Dirksen from Tigard, so Sir Dirksen. So when I see Rob, we'll address Rob as Sir Hungerford.
Sir Hungerford, yeah.
Congratulations, Rob.
Yes. I just want to say a couple of things here in closing. To clear up on add on to the guidelines issue, it is correct. We always accept questions. That's a lot of what happens at citizen communication, whether someone's asking about a pothole in front of their house or whatever. It's just that we don't give them a solution right here. We refer them on to staff or meet with them after the meeting and discuss it there. Just to clarify, you notice when we had, for people watching today, when Richard was asking questions on the lighting district, we let that go because that was an agenda item. He had questions about that agenda item. It was a posted agenda item, and it was appropriate that it go back and forth. But citizen communication is very specific time within the formal business meeting when people can speak on non-agenda items, and therefore it's not a back and forth. Otherwise, we would need to notice it so that people who had an interest in that topic might be able to attend as well. So I know it's as I've said before, the formal business meeting is a formal meeting. We have many other meetings that are way less formal, and where we interact more directly with citizens on a variety of topics. And I think having this one on the 2nd is a good example. On the 5th of November is the forum in Stafford at Athey Creek, where we'll be talking about urbanization capacity issues in Stafford and Borland. That will be a much more conversational kind of meeting going on for 3 hours. The other ones that we have, a couple others that are worth noting are 4 of the 5 of us were up last weekend at government camp, not government camp, but we didn't make it all the way to government camp, but at Welch's to talk about government camp, to talk about the rest area, the rest stop up there at government camp, and what we're doing, what Travel Information Council is doing, or Clackamas Tourism is doing to try to keep that open since ODOT announced that they were intending to close it. And we do believe we have a solution to that, but that was another example of more of a back and forth with the community where it was not this kind of formal setting. An upcoming event I just want to make people aware of, not to say you should go unless you are a participant already, is the Search and Rescue convention or conference, which is going on at the mountain this weekend. So there's a 3-day event, and I will be up there for the opening tomorrow. But this will pull together a lot of the emergency services and the sheriffs and police and a lot of volunteer rescue people as we get ready for a winter season when we often have cold weather issues and whatever. So they are a very well-trained team and work with many different agencies as a team, and that's and a lot of that's because they have this annual conference up there. So that's an important thing going on. And then just in terms of some of the things that I've been doing this in the last week or two, I have taken some opportunities have been offered to me to visit some of the training facilities of a variety of trade unions. The electrical facility, the plumbers and steam fitters, the sheet metal workers, the iron workers. There are a lot of training facilities. I don't know of one that is in Clackamas County at the moment, although the plumbers and steam fitters is just across the county line in Tualatin. But all of these facilities serve, for the most part, most of Oregon or all of Oregon and Southwest Washington with apprentice programs that are just outstanding in facilities that really put any sort of community college facility to shame. It is a tremendous opportunity, and they all are looking for more qualified individuals to be in their programs. They have stepped up as more and more of our high schools have dropped shop classes, and I think that's unfortunate from a number of perspectives. But there are a lot of opportunities out there for kids who are interested, kids and adults who are interested in a solid career that has a good future to it. And in most cases, these apprenticeship programs are where you are paid to learn. So you earn while you learn, which is not true of most college programs. But many of them are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years long. And when you're done, you have a solid, marketable career. And so I just bring it up mostly so that people consider this, especially in a down economy. If they're looking at making a career change, this is something to consider and investigate, because there are a lot of programs out there that are really excellent.
I have just one other quick thing to add in terms of meetings and things going on tonight. There's a kickoff meeting for the Transportation Systems Plan, 6 p.m. in our Development Services building, and she's put it up on the board there. So that's another chance to get connected with some of the important things that are happening in Clackamas County.
Yes. And it's on your screen right now. This is the Transportation Systems Plan. We are launching. It will be how long of a process would you say?
I think over a year, up to 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So many opportunities to participate. So this is the launch of it. We have a team of 20-some individuals, volunteers from a variety of different kinds of perspectives, stakeholder perspectives, and geography throughout the county, who have agreed to volunteer their time over this process and participate as the steering committee. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, advisory committee.
Advisory committee.
And there'll be a multitude of
TSP.
touch points for them.
Right. So we appreciate their willingness to do that service for the community. With that, if there's nothing further before the commission, we will be adjourned.